What if I told you the MVP award was never just about being the best? That legends like Kobe, Shaq, and even Jordan were robbed, while others ran away with the trophy without ever winning a ring. From politics, media bias, rule changes, and international takeovers, the MVP award has gone through eras that'll shock you. This is the real story behind every MVP era in NBA history. And trust me, by the end, you'll never look at an MVP the same way again.
The big man reign, 1956 to 1969, when MVP was about size, stats, and survival in a league still finding itself. Let's rewind to a time before three-pointers, before social media, before the NBA was even cool. It's the late 1950s. The league is small, white-dominated, and barely hanging on in a country that's still segregated. But right in the middle of that chaos, a few giants start to change everything. Not just with their height, but with their dominance. And this is where the MVP truly begins.
1956, the birth of MVP. The MVP award was officially introduced in 1956, and the first guy to win it, Bob Pettit, a 6'9" forward who was strong, skilled, and scored like crazy. But make no mistake, this wasn't about popularity. MVP voting back then, it was done by the players, not the media. That meant you had to earn respect from the guys who played against you. Then Pettit, he averaged 25 points and 16 rebounds per game. No social media hype, just raw production. But what came next was the real beginning of a dynasty.
1958 to 1965, the Bill Russell takeover. Starting in 1958, Bill Russell entered the MVP race and never really left. From 1958 to 1965, he won the MVP 5 times. Now here's the crazy part. Russell never averaged more than 19 points in any MVP season. So how'd he win? Defense, leadership, winning. Russell was the anchor of the Boston Celtics, who won 11 titles in 13 years. He was grabbing 22 rebounds a game, shutting down the paint, and running the fast break like a point guard. But here's the drama. In 1962, Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50.4 points and 25.7 rebounds per game. That's not a typo, 50 points a night. And he still didn't win MVP. Russell did. Why? Because back then, MVP wasn't about individual dominance, it was about winning and respect. Wilt was seen as selfish. Russell was the leader. This set the tone. Being the best statistically didn't guarantee the MVP. The Wilt versus Russell rivalry. Let's talk about that beef. Russell and Wilt were opposites. Russell, quiet, defensive, all about the team. Wilt, loud, flashy, dropping 100-point games. Their battles were legendary, and the MVP award became a reflection of that contrast. Wilt finally got his MVP in 1960, and again in 1966 and 1967, when he started passing more, winning more, and being more Russell-like. It was like the league punished him for being too dominant until he toned it down. This MVP philosophy stuck. You couldn't just outscore the league, you had to play the politics game, be likable, coachable, and above all, win. The stat revolution begins. Here's something most fans don't know. The MVP award in the 60s wasn't even based on a consistent formula.
Sometimes it was the guy with the best record, the guy with the best narrative, or the player other players simply feared the most. Take Oscar Robertson, for example. In 1962, he averaged a triple-double, 30.8 points, 12.5 rebounds, 11.4 assists, and he didn't win MVP either. Why? Because he played on a .500 team, and voters still preferred Russell's team-first dominance. It was all vibes back then. No advanced metrics, no PER, no impact charts, just the eye tests, and a whole lot of East Coast bias. The race and respect factor.
Here's the part the NBA didn't advertise. During this era, black players had to outperform just to get recognition. There were still teams with unofficial limits on how many black players could be on the court. So for Russell and Wilt to even be in the MVP conversation, that was a statement. Russell once said, "I wasn't the best player because I scored the most. I was the best because I changed the game." And the MVP, at least during this era, rewarded that philosophy: leadership, impact, and winning over stats and flash.
Which MVP era shocked you the most? Comment below. I want to know.
The MVP chaos and Kareem's silent takeover 1970 to 1979. When the league got wild and one man dominated so quietly, most fans still don't realize what he did.
The 70s started with no face of the league. When the 1970s began, the NBA was in trouble. The league was boring to some fans, with too many teams, weird MVP voting, and no clear superstar running the show. And just to add chaos, another league showed up, the ABA. With its flashy dunks, three-point line, and players like Julius Erving flying through the air, the ABA was stealing attention, money, and future MVPs. Meanwhile, the NBA MVP race, it was getting weird. 1970, 1974. MVPs were all over the place. These first few years were like a dice roll. 1970, Willis Reed wins MVP and Finals MVP, leading the Knicks. 1971, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, still known as Lou Alcindor, wins his first MVP. 1972, Wilt gets one more. 1973, Dave Cowens wins MVP. Yep, seriously. 1974, Kareem again. There was no clear pattern. Sometimes voters gave it to the best record, sometimes the best big man, sometimes just vibes. And fans, they were confused. There was no Jordan, no LeBron, no Curry. It was like every year, MVP meant something totally new.
Kareem, the MVP you forgot was that dominant. Here's the wildest stat nobody talks about enough. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar won 6 MVPs in 10 years. More than Jordan, more than LeBron, more than anyone in history. But Kareem was just automatic. He'd walk in, drop 27 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, and casually hit that skyhook all game long. And you barely heard a word. Kareem didn't play for your attention. He played for banners. From 1971 to 1980, he was always in MVP conversations, winning in 71, 72, 74, 76, 77, and 80. And still, many fans didn't love him the way they loved flashier stars. Why? Because Kareem was too good and didn't care about being famous. The ABA merger, MVPs get even weirder. In 1976, everything changed. The NBA and ABA merged. 4 ABA teams joined the league. And suddenly, all those wild dunkers and creative scorers from the ABA were now NBA players. This changed the game. The pace got faster, more guards started showing up in MVP voting. And just a year later,
The first guard to break through, Bill Walton? Nope, it wasn't a guard. 1978 MVP Bill Walton, a center from Portland, wins it despite only playing 58 games. You read that right, the MVP missed nearly a quarter of the season. But people loved his team-first play style, passing, and defense. It was MVP voting again, and Walton, he was great, but injuries ended his run fast. He'd never be that dominant again. This showed how weird the 70s MVP race really was. Nobody knew what most valuable meant.
The real MVP story of the 70s, Kareem versus the chaos. Through all the craziness, one thing stayed consistent: Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. While the rest of the league flipped between stars and stories, Kareem just dominated. Here's what he averaged in his MVP seasons. 1971, 31.7 PPG, 16.0 RPG. 1972, 34.8 ppg, 16.6 RPG. 1974, 27.0 ppg, 14.5 RPG. 1976, 27.7 ppg, 16.9 RPG, 5 APGs, 4.1 BPGs. 1980, 24.8 ppg, 10.8 RPG.
And all without the three-point line. Nobody could stop the skyhook. Nobody could out-rebound him. And the dude could pass, too. But because he wasn't flashy, he got left out of a lot of fans' GOAT debates. The 70s MVP lessons. This decade taught us a few big things about MVP. Stats alone weren't enough. The voters were emotional. Being the best player didn't mean you'd win it every year. Just ask Kareem. And the league wanted a face, but didn't know who to pick. It was the most unpredictable MVP era ever. But the storm wouldn't last forever. Because right as the 70s ended, the NBA finally got what it needed. Two superstars, one white, one black, both born in the same year, both drafted in 1979, and both about to change MVP forever. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. The MVP award was about to get personal.
Who was the most underrated MVP in history? Drop your pick right now.
Bird versus Magic, the MVP rivalry that saved the NBA, 1980 to 1989. This wasn't just about basketball. It was about race, cities, money, and the future of the entire league.
The NBA was dying in the late 70s. Let's be real. In the late 70s, the NBA had a major image problem. TV ratings were trash, playoff games were being shown on tape delay, and the league was dealing with rumors of drug problems, low attendance, and fans losing interest. But in 1979, two rookies stepped into the league. Larry Bird from Indiana, Magic Johnson from Michigan. One white, one black. One in Boston, one in Los Angeles. And both born just 53 days apart. It was like the basketball gods said, "Here, fix the NBA." And that's exactly what they did.
1980, Magic's finals magic, but no MVP. Magic Johnson made a statement immediately. In Game 6 of the 1980 finals, rookie Magic played center. Yes, center, because Kareem was out injured. He dropped 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists, and won finals MVP as a rookie. But the regular season MVP? That went to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It was clear. Magic was the show, but Kareem was still the rock. Still, the energy had shifted. Magic brought flair, smiles, showtime. And across the country, Larry Bird was coming. 1981. Bird takes the league by the throat. Larry Bird wasn't flashy. He didn't dunk like Dr. J. He wasn't Magic with a smile. But Bird was a killer. Cold as ice. Trash talker. Played like every game was personal. In 1981, the Celtics won the title behind Bird's elite defense, passing, and IQ. He didn't win MVP yet. Julius Erving did in '81, but the league was starting to take sides. Bird or Magic? 1984 to 1986. Bird's MVP three-peat. Here's where things got legendary. From 1984 to 1986, Larry Bird won MVP 3 years in a row. That's something only Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain had done before. His numbers were insane. 1984, 24 PBG, 10 RPG, 6 APG. Celtics won 62 games. 1985, 28.7 PBG,
10.5 RPGs, shooting 52% from the field and 43% from 3. 1986, 25.8 PPG, 9.8 RPGs, 6.8 APGs, led Boston to 67 wins and another championship. He could shoot from anywhere. He rebounded like a center. He passed like a point guard. And every time you thought he was too slow or unathletic, he'd torch you with a smirk and say,
Bird wasn't just dominant, he was cold-blooded.
Meanwhile, Magic waited patiently. Magic didn't win MVP during Bird's three-peat, but don't get it twisted, he was right there. Magic's Lakers were still winning, still running fast breaks, still dancing past defenders with those wild no-look passes. He was stacking rings, 1980, 1982, 1985. But MVP? The voters kept giving it to Bird. It built the perfect drama. The East had the best player, the West had the most exciting player. And in 1987, Magic finally said, enough.
1987 and 1989, Magic's MVP era begins. Magic Johnson turned up the heat. He wasn't just passing anymore. He was scoring more, rebounding more, leading more. In 1987, he averaged 23.9 PPG, 12.2 APG, 6.3 RPG, while leading the Lakers to 65 wins. He finally won MVP. Then in 1989, he did it again. Another MVP with 22.5 points, 12.8 assists, and 8 rebounds. Magic was the engine. The Lakers ran because he ran. And unlike Bird, Magic wasn't slowing down. He was just getting better.
The league exploded thanks to Bird versus Magic. This rivalry didn't just boost TV ratings, it changed the NBA forever. Let's talk numbers. 1980 NBA Finals, 8.2 TV rating. 1984 Finals, Bird versus Magic, 12.3 rating. 1987 Finals, 15.9 rating. Merch sales boomed. Teams made money. The league went from tape delay games to primetime TV deals. And most of that came from one thing. People picking a side, Larry or Magic. It wasn't just basketball. It was a city, race, style, era, and MVP voting. It became the ultimate battleground.
So, who really won the MVP era? Bird got 3 MVPs. Magic got 3 MVPs. Both got 3 titles in the 80s. Both were finals MVPs. So, who won? It depends who you ask. Bird fans say he did more with less. He was smarter, more versatile. Magic fans say he made the game beautiful. He led better, he won when it counted. But maybe the truth is, the real winner was the NBA. Because without this rivalry, the league might not even exist as we know it today.
The Jordan MVP takeover and the years he was robbed from 1990 to 1998. When you're so dominant, they stop giving you the trophy just to keep things interesting.
The Bulls were building a monster. By the early 90s, the league had fully shifted. Magic and Bird were getting older. Isaiah's Pistons were bruising everyone. But one man was coming, and he wasn't coming to play. Michael Jordan. From the moment he entered the league in 1984, Jordan was putting up numbers like a video game. In 1987, he averaged 37.1 points per game and didn't win MVP. In 1988, he went MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah, both in the same season. And yet, he still wasn't winning championships because the Pistons were bullying him.
1991 to 1993, Jordan's first three-peat. 2 MVPs in 3 years. Everything changed in 1991. The Bulls finally got through Detroit. Jordan went full assassin, and the league? It had its new king. 1991 MVP? Jordan. 31.5 PPG, 6.0 RPG, 5.5 APG, 53% shooting. 1992 MVP? Jordan. 30.1 PPG, 6.4 RPG, 6.1 APG, led the Bulls to 67 wins. 1994 to 1995, Jordan's retirement and his return. After his father's murder, Jordan shocked the world. He retired. I walked away from the game. Played baseball for the White Sox minor league system. In 1994, the MVP went to Hakeem Olajuwon, who led the Rockets to a title. In 1995, David Robinson won MVP, but that year gained us one of the most disrespectful Jordan moments ever. Because Jordan came back late in the season, and when the Bulls faced the Spurs the next year, MJ dropped 72 on Robinson's MVP teammate in a playoff game and stared him down.
1996, the greatest MVP season ever. Jordan returned in full form in 95-96, and the world wasn't ready. Bulls went 72-10, a record at the time. Jordan won MVP with 30.4 PPG, 6.6 RPG, 4.3 APG. He won All-Star MVP. He won Finals MVP. He literally swept the year. It was more than dominance. It was perfection. This wasn't just a comeback. This was MJ saying, "I own the league. Don't ever doubt me again."
1997 MVP, the first real MVP controversy? Jordan was still elite in 1997. He averaged 29.6 points, led the Bulls to 69 wins, won another championship. But who won MVP? Karl Malone. Now, Malone had a great season, 27 PPG, 9 RPG, 64 wins. But let's be honest, Jordan had the better stats. Jordan had the better team. Jordan beat Malone in the finals right after. So why did Malone win? Simple. Voter fatigue. They didn't want to give it to Mike again. They wanted something new. And it backfired because Jordan used it as fuel. In the 97 finals, MJ hit the flu game, trapped 38 points while barely standing, and took the MVP from Malone the only way he could, in the finals.
1998, Jordan's last MVP. 1998 was the end of an era. The Bulls were falling apart. Pippen wanted out. Phil Jackson's contract was expiring, and Jordan had already told the media, "If Phil's not coaching, I'm not playing." So what did Jordan do? He put on one last show, averaged 28.7 points, led the Bulls to 62 wins, won his 5th regular season MVP, and capped it off with one of the coldest game winners in finals history over Karl Malone and the Jazz. That was it. The final shot. The perfect ending.
The MVP problem with Jordan. Let's talk facts. Jordan played 15 seasons. He won 5 MVPs. But ask any NBA historian and they'll tell you he could have won 8 or 9 MVPs easy. Why didn't he? Because the NBA needed balance. Because voters got bored. Because giving Jordan everything would have made the league too predictable. But ironically, trying to spread the love made MJ even more feared. Because every time someone else won MVP, Jordan made sure they paid for it in the playoffs.
Jordan's MVP impact on the NBA. Here's what Jordan did to the league during this era. Globalized it. Every kid from Chicago to China wanted to be like Mike. Boosted viewership. Finals ratings during Jordan's run hit record highs, with the 1998 finals averaging 18.7 million viewers per game. made MVP matter again, because when Mike had it, everyone knew he was the best. And when he didn't win it, it made headlines. No MVP race before or after ever carried this much weight.
The history of the NBA MVP award is more than just a list of great players. It's a timeline of dominance, evolution, and shifting styles of play. In the 1960s, it was all about Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, two giants who defined the era through rebounding, defense, and raw physical dominance. The 70s brought more variety, with stars like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar rising to the top through his unstoppable skyhook. The 80s became the battleground of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, symbolizing a golden age of flashy passing and high basketball IQ. Michael Jordan then took over the 90s, redefining greatness with 6 titles and 5 MVPs, blending scoring, leadership, and killer instinct. The 2000s saw the rise of big men like Shaq and Tim Duncan, before shifting toward versatile forwards like Dirk Nowitzki and Kevin Garnett. The 2010s were dominated by LeBron James, Steph Curry's shooting revolution, and the analytics era. Today, the MVP is global. Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid represent the new face of international excellence. Each era not only crowned the league's best player, but also reflected how the game itself was changing, faster, smarter, and more global than ever before.
Thanks for watching. Because in the end, the MVP award isn't just about points or stats, it's about legacy. It's about the players who defined generations, carried franchises, and inspired millions. The NBA has always been a stage for greatness, and the MVPs, they're the ones who owned the spotlight. From hardwood battles to history books, their stories remind us why we love this game. And as new stars rise and old records fall, one thing is certain: the NBA's next MVP era is just getting started.